Good morning and welcome. I'm Bob Pace. I'm your host, and this is a live podcast of how to fight with CPS and also hang on to your children and get your children back. Can't forget an important part of life is our family and our children. I'm a loving father, husband. I have 6 children, and unfortunately, like yourselves, I went through CPS. And yes, they did me wrong. They did me really wrong, and I'm still recovering from it. I've been fighting for 15 years. First 5 years of fighting with it was false allegations that my in-laws were saying that were happening, which wasn't true. And it all started with the loss of my job through no fault of my own. I had a perfect storm brewing. The economy was tanking. Predatory loans were happening. Banks were collapsing. And it seemed like everything that I was attempting in my life in 2010 was working against me. I know it's now 24 years later. Wow, it's hard to believe 24 years later, and it's not even better than it was in 2010. 14 years later, I can't even do my math right. 14 years later. But I want to welcome you all. I know what you're going through is really hard. It's one of the worst things to do to have your family torn apart. And you come to this room because you believe in your children and you believe in family and you want to seek some help, and I will try to help you. I'm not an attorney, but I have things that work for me. And also, I've talked to over 500 some people for the last, since October, and pretty much every state and about 10, 15 countries I've talked to people. So, yeah, CPS, the Child Protection System, is a worldwide problem. There's no question about that. To interact with this podcast, I mean, there's several ways you can, and I can go through that right now. Um, I, okay. Okay. So I let some people know because sometimes, oh, wow, you did come for me, Faye. I was just texting you a message. Welcome, Faye, from Richmond, Kentucky. So glad to have you in my room. So glad. And what I want to do is tell you how you can interact with this podcast. One way is that you can text me messages. This is broadcast on YouTube. You found me on Facebook. We're using StreamYard application. And so when you type it in the comments about your type in your comments about your CPS questions, and I like to keep it to CPS. Please show your name, city, state, or country and be complete with your case. What I mean by complete is start from the beginning, how the allegations happened and where you at in your case. Also, if you have several fathers with the children, you're married or your partner, whatever the situation is. And that way, if you can be complete, I can answer your questions a lot better. Now, I mentioned country. Yes, we do have countries that call in. We've had Australia, Canada, United Kingdom, Ghana, which is in South America. I learned about a country I didn't know too much about. And it's in north of Brazil on the coast there. And they called in. They too have problems. There was Mexico and then Mozambique in Africa on the east side, below Somalia, and above South Africa, across from the island of Madagascar. And that's where Mozambique is. Then there has been Denmark. And Denmark, of course, is from Europe. And lastly, we've been having Liberia call in several times. A guy named Archie, he's a scout leader. And he had things that he wants to do about protecting children in Liberia. And Liberia is on the west coast of Africa, along the coast. So people around the world have questions and issues about CPS, and I'll try my best to answer your questions. The Child Protection System is a branch of Social Services. I can get them messed up there, but Social Services has this branch that government established, and it's supposed to protect our children from neglect and abuse, and also do family reunification, get the families put back together again. It's a hard thing that you're going through because you now have been taken control by the agency that's very corrupt and not very honest, and uses a lot of deception, lies. They're not transparent, and they're certainly not going to help you. They mess up people too. They just really... thing is, you're probably wondering why they're doing all this. Well, they're an $80 billion business a year. All they want to do is they want to make money off you. And so you have to be careful about them. Now, besides typing in comments, you can make a phone call. And you can call me on my office phone number at 626-698-0990. And it will ring my office number, and I can answer it and put you on speakerphone, and you'll be live talking. You won't be able to see, but you'll be live talking. We can take care of your case. There has been several of you the last couple of days have called in right at the start of the show, pretty close to it, that have issues. And it's important that you can talk about them. So I'm on twice a day, 7 days a week. And I'm on at 10 o'clock in the morning, Pacific Standard Time for an hour, except on Sunday, I'm on at 8 o'clock in the morning, Pacific Standard Time for an hour. And then on every night at 7 p.m. for an hour, that's Pacific Standard Time. So that's 14 podcasts that I do a week. I've been doing that steadily since October. Now, that phone number, you call in at 626-698-0990. We'll get you the talk on the show. Now, if you don't want to talk, you don't want to text me later on, you like to be a guest on the show, I have a show producer. Her name is Grace. She works really hard behind the scenes. And so um, she can schedule you as a guest and help you with the StreamYard application to get on. All you have to do is email her at grace at vincentwdavis.com. That's grace at vincentwdavis.com. And she will help you. Just tell her I want to be on the morning show on Wednesday, or the Sunday show at night, or Saturday morning show, or Wednesday evening show. You just tell them even or morning and what day of the week. It's your pick. You just email her at grace at vincentwdavis.com. That's grace at vincentwdavis.com. Now I'm going to put my phone number back up because that's the one that you can call in on and so forth. Yeah, I have my call-in number now. I was talking about several other things, Faye. I was talking about how to text me and how to be a guest on the show. And Archie, welcome again. You're from Liberia, and you definitely are a scout leader because you always want to protect your children. So I'm glad to hear from you, Archie. And I don't know if you've written my show producer, Grace, at vincentwdavis.com and ask her if you want to be a guest on the show and how she can connect you. But anyway, if you have any questions or anything, Faye, is there any particular topic you want to talk about? I'm glad you remind me, Faye. You're a wonderful woman. Faye has really gone through a lot. For some of you may not know it, but she's gone through a lot. She was in foster care 4 or 5 times growing up, and sadly, she was abused and molested as a young person, and it's wrong. But she's trying to fight with her special needs son, a 22-year-old. And she's in a city that they're very corrupt. Right now, there's $800,000 that are unaccounted for. $800,000. And they don't know, CPS does not know where the money went to and stuff. So take care, be safe, love you. Okay. That was my son going off to work, I guess. We have lots of things we can talk about. I can help you with. I have a lot of tabs open, and we have things like the ICWA, the Indian Child Welfare Act. We have the 388 motion to petition the court to have a hearing. JV 180. How to report a bad judge, how to report a bad attorney, how to report a bad social worker. All you need to do for all you listeners out there is ask me your questions, and I will gladly talk about them. I do have 3 rules that I've come up with that will help you. One is you need to get an attorney. 2, you need to organize your paperwork. And 3, you got to learn to say no to social workers and to police and not let them take your child or enter your home. That's a hard thing because we're not aware of our constitutional or civil rights. but the child protection system will violate your rights. They have no qualms about it. So I'm telling you, you have to be careful out there because this agency is notorious for swallowing you up. Swallowing you up. Faye wants to talk a little bit about mental health and how CPS discriminates against disabled people and using mental health because they know if they get you labeled mental health, then they have grounds to find you unfit and push for termination. Yeah, Faye's been talking about that lately. It was sad. And I didn't really realize it, at least in Kentucky. There are social workers that are supposedly trained as clinical psychiatrists. And they can tell you whether you're a fit parent or not a fit parent. And if they declare you unfit, you're going to have to prove that you are fit. Because you're unfit, they will terminate your parental rights to your children. It's an easy way for them to kidnap your children, to traffic your children, to alienate your children. And all those things are illegal. It's illegal to alienate. It's illegal to traffic your children. It's illegal to kidnap your children. But CPS is proud to say so. In fact, there's social workers, 8 of them I call the Pink Ladies, in Prescott, Arizona. Now, Prescott's not a big city in Arizona, but these social workers decided to make pink T-shirts, and on the front they stenciled they're professional kidnappers. And on the back they said, do you know where your children are at? Those are wrong messages. They went out in public. They went to Walmart. They went to different stores. And they paraded around with that awful T-shirt. And the message was quite clear from the social workers that they purposely want to take your children away. I mean, it's sad. It's sad. And this mental health problem can really be a mushroom problem. Faye and I have discussed it. There are social workers, too, that are not clinical psychiatrists, but will diagnose or will try to treat people with mental health issues, give them medication, so forth. That's wrong. You have to be a clinical psychiatrist. You have to be a doctor in that to be able to do that. But sad, the social workers think they can do everything. They think go above the law because there is no accountability. There's no board of supervisors or board of directors. There's one director in charge, but that's a lot of power for one person. And I did go and try to fight the director of child protection system in California and Orange County, and it was terrible. That director, everything I said went one ear, went out the other ear. He worked out of a Taj Mahal of a building. Unnecessary expense there. I mean, it was like the Emerald City and Wizard of Oz. And everything I say went in one ear and went out the other. So they're not any good listeners or doing it. They will run up and take your children away. It's so sad. It really is. Now, Faye further says disabled persons load their kids more to the system than any other parental kid group. Yeah, because there's more money for special need kids or disabled kids. There's more money that CPS can get, and the child protection system wants money. They want money there. ADA is supposed to protect people with disabilities from this, but CPS uses the fact that the personal disabilities supersede their parenting. And that's sad because if you're a disabled person, you can take care of your child. It doesn't mean you're mentally deranged or something like that. I mean, it's just wrong what CPS does. And I know what Faye is talking about. That's really bad. And if any of you right now are listening that would like to talk about something, then feel free to call back in and talk. And I will try to help you through your CPS case. But right now, we're talking about disabilities and special need children and parents with disabilities and things like that. So, it's very, 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 very important as parents that you're careful with CPS. They're notorious for trafficking your children, stealing your children, and alienate your children from the parents. That's their goal. And if you don't think seeing the ladies parade around in pink t-shirts that say they're professional kidnappers, and on the back of the t-shirt, do you know where your children are at? Those are clear messages of how bad the CPS is. In fact, one social worker in Chicago, Illinois, is on her Facebook page. Her name, first name was Carol, and she posted an ad from 1848. That's right, an old ad from 1848 that said, "Black children for sale." And it's terrible, especially this time of age now. I mean, the Civil War is behind us. And 1848 was, before the Civil War. But for whatever reason, this social worker decided to post it only because these social workers are corrupt. They don't care about you, the parents, the seniors, the elderly. All they care about is making a fast buck at the expense of our children. So it's really not safe out there. It really is not safe out there. Mm. So thank you, Faye, for bringing up that topic. That's nice. Now, I mentioned my rules. I have three of them. It's easy. I've reviewed them. First one is find an attorney. And yes, you have to find an attorney. The one that they appoint you in court, if you can't afford one, is a public defender. And they have a caseload of 30 or more clients, and they won't talk to you. They'll talk to you the day of the hearing, but that's enough time to prepare. And they're not going to fight CPS in court, and they're going to let things slide, and they're really not going to defend you. It's kind of a waste of time having them. So we have an attorney here. His name is Vincent W. Davis, and he can be reached at 888-888-6582. He's a licensed family dependency attorney, and he has fought CPS and has gotten children returned. He's also sued CPS in both state and federal courts and won cases against them. And I'm talking some big time cases. So anyway, if you call in 888-888-6582, make a consultation with Mr. Davis. He'll charge you $60 for 30 minutes. $60 for 30 minutes. And he'll talk to you about the strategies of how to fight CPS and get your children back. Now, I have, besides the phone number, I have a ticket run at the bottom that if you want to go look at his calendar, you go to Candly, CALENDLY.com/law office of VWD/Bob Pace. So that's one way to go to his calendar if you want to. And you probably say, "Why do I need an attorney? I can't afford one." Well, think of it this way. CPS is like open heart surgery. In open heart surgery, someone's got to come into your chest and work on your heart. And I don't think it's going to be you or your friend next door or family member open up your chest and try to fix your heart. It's going to be a professional doctor. It's not going to be a plumber. It's not going to be an auto mechanic, but it's going to be a doctor who can treat you and figure out what's causing the issues that you have. Okay. So think of CPS as open heart surgery. CPS abuses parents and they'll cheat and lie. And I know at times you don't want to believe it. You think they're going there to help you, but they're really not. They're not really there to help you. I don't know how else to say it, but they're not there to help you. So what I want you all to do is call in. You got nothing to lose, and talk to Mr. Davis for 30 minutes, and he'll go over the strategies and everything. So it's important you have an attorney. I did. It took me a year, but I did. I had to sell my home to hire him. And I'd worked for the home for 40 years and I lost it. But it's material. It's like anything else in life. You can't take the home when you die. But it is hard because you did work your heart out. I worked my heart out so much in life. And it's been a really struggle for me. I should be having these at my golden years, as they say. I'm 74 now and I don't feel it, but I am a dinosaur. Anyway, this loving man, this loving father would look to really help you out and make sure that your kids aren't stolen like mine were. I did get my back when I used Vince or Davis. He did get my two boys back, but I lost my young daughter, who's 21 now. She was taken from me at 12. And so I miss her every day. I miss her every day. The sad part about is the CPS worker was very revengeful. She lied on the witness stand. We caught her with her lies, so we can sue her in civil court. But it takes money to sue, and I can't afford it. But as revenge on her part, she told me and my wife that you'll never see your daughter again. I'm going to make sure she's adopted by foster care. I'll make sure her name is changed. I'll make sure that her birth certificate is sealed so that she's no longer your child. And I'll make sure she divorces you, parents, her brothers, her grandparents, all that were divorced. So that's what happened. That's what CPS. They burned my house and then they stole my daughter. And it really hurts. I know it hurts with you guys. And she's 21 now. So her birthday's coming up in July. And it just, I cringe at the thought of not able to see her. So that's rule number one, to get an attorney, because if you get an attorney, you'll be able to fight your case and get your kids back. Without an attorney, and I'm talking about a qualified attorney, you're helplessly lost in the system and you eventually be terminated or lose your kids in its entirety. Now, if you have a public defender, I wouldn't use him. You're better off pro se than using a public defender. Pro se is where you act as an attorney in your case, try to defend yourself. A lot depends on the judges and the social system that you're seeing there in your state. Now, another rule I have is paperwork. You need to organize your paperwork. Putting them on post-it notes and envelopes and in your head is not good enough. You're not going to remember things 6 months from time. I'd invest in getting a notebook, a 3-ring binder 6 inches thick. And you want to stuff it with college rule notebook paper. And then you want to get some dividers, divide up the pages in your notebook. And some of the subject matters, one is called incidents. Incidents is when something happens to you, either by the police or social service or something related to your CPS case. All you need to do is write in the date, the time, the location, and the people involved. Then the next line you can skip and then write in what the incident is or was. You describe it. And then after that, you put the outcome of the incident. Was it settled? Is it still hanging or what? You need to fill it out. Because as your case goes on, it gets worse and worse as it goes on. So, with that being said, it's very important, very, very, very important that you keep track of your paperwork. Another subject matter, okay, besides writing a list of what the incident is, you put the outcome. The outcome may take some time. But another subject matter could be your program certificates and your parenting certificates. You need to keep track of them, put hole punches in there. You want to start a log that tells you what you've taken, the days and the times you've done it and so forth. You also could put your monitor reports, your drug reports, whether you've taken drug testing or seen a psychiatrist. Put all that in there. And that way you can label that thing called activities. Activities is your parenting classes, your program like anger management. Another activity could be your drug test. And if they come back negative, you can include that in there and stuff. And so it's very, very, very important that you keep good, accurate track of all this. Another tab could be info. That's the names, the phone numbers, the names of people that you've contacted about CPS. Now, my third rule is learning how to say no to social workers, no to police, and don't let them come into your home or take your children, including when you go to the hospital. So much of the time, so when you meet up with these social workers, you want to be very brief. It's yes, no answers. Be professional. But the least you see, they will not use it against you. See, if you talk to them, they're going to use what you say against them. If you're in the home, you hear a knock at the door, don't answer it. You don't know who's at that door. The reason why I relate that is that there was an incident on May 3rd by Roger in his own apartment, and he went to answer the door, and the sheriff from Gainesville, Florida, point blank, 5 bullets, and killed him while his death was recorded on FaceTime talking to his girlfriend. And on the other camera, the cop's camera, showed the whole incident. And it was ludicrously stupid. 5 shots and the guy is dead. So don't answer the door. And if they want to get a hold of you, they have your phone number, or they can, call you, or they can email you. So you don't have to answer the door. The policeman does need a warrant to open someone's door. So that matter can go to the mail. They can leave your business cards. And that also goes for police because they need a warrant to search your place, to take your children, to enter your place, to talk to you. If there's no warrant, you don't need to, and you shouldn't. You should really get a hold of your attorney. In fact, if you're outside and you run into social workers, tell them that you're going to talk to your attorney first before you talk any further to them, because everything you say will be used against you. So if they're outside and they're pressuring you, you can say to them, I need to speak to my attorney first, and I'll get back to you. You're polite, and that usually diffuses them right away, and they can walk away from that. But you really should see an attorney. That is the most important thing you need to do because you cannot negotiate with the CPS system. You can't talk to them. They're crazy. I mean, you're like Alice in Wonderland in the backyard. You fall in a rabbit hole, and now you go in all these rooms that have no answers. And in the story, I think there's one room where it said "off with your head." It's crazy. So what you need to do is follow with your spoon. I'm sorry, not follow your spoon. Follow up with a phone call to your attorney and let your attorney um, resolve the issue. Because without an attorney, you're helpless and you're going to be taken so much advantage of yourself. Now, the police can be very intimidating, but you can be respectful to them and stand up to. Be very careful when they ask for your name. You give them your name, but it's yes, no answers. But then, if they say their name, make sure you get their badge number. And if it's a social worker, they'll have an ID. Gotta make sure they have that ID. Otherwise, you don't need to talk to the social worker. Um, Another thing may happen too is you're going to the hospital with your child who's sick, and you're talking to the doctor and so forth. There are social workers at the hospital that because you take your child to the hospital, think you're not protecting them, and they will try to take away your child. You do not let them go. They have to have a warrant. And just because you're going to the hospital to get an opinion doesn't mean that's a negative thing. So that was one way. Another one is the birth of your child. If you're having a baby, social workers do not belong in the birthing chamber. Um, um, so the other aspect of medical bees, you're going to have a birth of a child, and they're going to test you. And if he tested positive for unknown substance or some type of illegal drug, they're going to try to take away your child. And they shouldn't, because you're going to the hospital to birth and have your child. They can wait in the lobby. There's no need for them to come barging in. And they always bring a policeman because it's more intimidating to have something. So you can tell those social worker policemen to wait in the lobby. Your child belongs to you. You need to have the child nursed and taken care of. CPS doesn't care. So you got to tell the school doctors or the nurses, please have these people excuse me, they're not entitled to the room. It's your constitutional right. They cannot take your child or contact unless they have a warrant. So I'm telling you that. So that's my rule number 3. So I've talked about getting an attorney. I've talked about the paperwork, and I've talked about not to talk to social workers or police and not let them in your home and not let them take your child. Not to take your child. So going back to the ICWA, the Indian Child Welfare Act, that was enacted in 1978. It was long overdue because in 1875, the Indians, most of them were being put on reservations and the Indian wars were dying out. But that ICWA is supposed to protect Indian children. So if you are registered with a federal tribe, a tribe that's recognized by the federal government, there's 547 of them, like the Crow, the Lakota Sioux, the Blackfoot, the Cheyenne, the Arapaho, the um, the Apache, the Comanche, the Navajo. I said, yeah, Cherokee, all the tribes. So if you're registered with the tribes, all you have to do is contact the tribe and show that you're registered. If you're not registered, but you could be registered, you need to apply for it. Well, going over the ICWA thing is something that should be done early on. Is how you want to plan your children. Now, we want our children placed with next of kin, so we placed it with my wife's daughter and husband, and they're pretty cool about taking the children in, but it's a lot of work. So have the CPS contact your tribe, whether like I'm a Lakota Sioux and they're in Rosebud, and they're supposed to contact. Then your children are placed with the tribe, and they in turn placed with Indian families, and they will help with the reunification. At least they don't have to be abused in foster care by the CPS or taken advantage of in CPS. Now, Faith further says, you know, hospitals put a do not take home hold on babies if they feel or have reason to believe the mom is on drugs or is in the capacity of caring for the child in the hospital. That's horrible, Faye, to know that. That isn't CPS that does that. CPS is called after hospital, place hold on the worker calls in on a call judge to get an ECO to remove the infant and have the police and put the parents out of the hospital. That's so sad. I didn't realize that the power that CPS would have over the parents. It makes you feel that, you can't have the child, you got to have the child at home and then run the risk of complications. So once they're placed in the tribe will turn them over to the family, then the family will do the reunification, and your chances of getting your child are a lot better that way. That's why you need to look into the ICWA, the Indian Child Welfare Act. Hi, Faye. How you feeling?
I'm okay. I'm doing better than what I was.
Okay, that's good to hear. Welcome, Lori Hiller. She comes in the room every time and she posts the name of William Mullins. I have no idea what all that means, but welcome, Lori. Faye, I cannot believe you tell me that they can, it's not the CPS workers that does that, it's the hospital staff that does that?
No, it's the hospital. The hospital, if the hospital finds drugs in the baby's meconium or in the mother's system, or if they just think that the mother's acting oddly with the baby in the hospital and a nurse thinks that the mother's not caring for the child right or whatever, then the hospital can place a hold on that child. And then when they place the hold, they contact CPS. CPS is called to the hospital. And then once CPS gets to the hospital, CPS can then, call a judge and ask for emergency custody order. And then they remove, they put the ECO on the baby. And then they call the police to the hospital. And that's when they tell the mom that she can't go home with her baby. This usually happens right around the time that the mother is being released from the hospital, or usually around that time. Then that's when they tell them they're not taking their baby home with them.
Well, there's one case where the mother was having the baby and it's being expressed from the uterus, and the social worker and the police barged in the room and wanted to take the baby right then and there. And I think that is awful.
That's a very rare case.
Yeah.
I don't know of any hospitals where a doctor is going to let somebody come in a room while they're literally pushing a baby out there,
Well, they were.
That's very rare.
That was the mother on the show, on my podcast, told that incident.
Yeah.
She was just
that's
barely.
Rare. That's a very rare incident.
But it's really sad because I don't understand why social workers or why parents can't be a lot more workable with a social worker. Because you have special needs or you're a disability as defined by the ADH, that doesn't mean you can't be a successful, caring, loving parent.
Well, here's what I don't understand. There's people out there, that are, they have like different types of syndromes, like say Down syndrome. And those they grow up, they marry, they have kids, they raise their kids, and most of them do just fine, But it's like it's almost like CPS has something against people with disabilities, because if you look up the statistics of and read them, people with disabilities are far more easier for them to take children away than someone that don't have disabilities.
Okay.
This is why if you come in with a case and CPS opens a case against you and you don't have any disability, they try to find one. That's why they try to say mental health, mental health, mental health, because that's the easiest thing they can get on you if you don't have a physical ailment is mental health. And they know if they can get you in an evaluation with their hired people and their people can put a phony diagnosis on you, then they've got their first ground to find you unfit as a parent, which they use in involuntary terminating your rights by saying that you cannot effectively parent your children and that they don't see this improving in the foreseeable future. So therefore, terminating your parental rights would protect the interest of the child.
Right. Well, Faye, I got to end the show because I've already gone over it's already over 11 o'clock. But I want to thank you for calling in and stay on the phone. I'll talk to you after the show. But I want to thank all the listeners out there. Archie from Liberia, thank you for coming back. He's our regular person from a foreign country. And then I also want to thank Lori Miller for sharing William Mullins in the room. And I want everybody to keep trying to get their kids back. Hopefully, you'll listen to what I had to say. God bless you. And this is Bob Pace signing off.